Hi guys, my name is John Kim and I'm a licensed marriage family therapist and a CrossFitter, and I'm making this video because I'm trying to create a dialogue that a lot of people don't talk about. I take a therapeutic approach or angle to mental blocks, and I'm going to throw a lot of information at you guys, and it's just for you guys to chew on. Maybe you'll relate to it, maybe you won't, I don't know. And it's out of order, so excuse the production. I'm just a guy in my kitchen, and I know I need to get my eyebrows waxed, so I apologize for that distraction. Mental blocks. Okay, no more jokes. I define mental blocks as any thought or feeling that hinders our, I'm going to use the word potential, because for some people I think the word performance is loaded. It can be a trigger. Okay, and I'll explain that later. So, a mental block is any thought or feeling that hinders our potential. Now, I believe that we don't hit our potential, not only in the box, but just in life in general, because of this piece. Because 20% of us hitting our potential is our ability, our techniques. For CrossFitters, it's your strength, the agility, all that stuff here, your natural gifts, right? I think 80% is inner conflict. What happens in here, the mental, emotional piece that prevents you from being the best you could be. And because of this inner conflict, we don't excel at the level that we should be, right? And so what we need to do is be aware of what's going on, reframe, resolve it, and rewire. And this is the stuff I'm talking about that no one talks about. And I know that there's seminars and there's a lot of information on the nutrition, and after WODs we do a lot of stretching and all the stuff that's more physical, but not a lot of stuff processing what happens during a WOD, what happens internally. Okay. I believe there are two types of mental blocks. There are internal mental blocks and external mental blocks, okay? And an external mental block is something that's outside of self. So an event happens, let's say you have a shitty day at work, then you come home, and then you go CrossFit, and you bring that residue into the box. You get to fight with your boss, so while you're doing double unders, you're thinking about the argument about with the boss, your job, or maybe you get into a fight with your girlfriend and you bring that into the box, and that can get in the way of your potential. It could also help in the sense that you could bring that energy and take it out on the weight or the WOD, but that could also be dangerous. So that's an example of an exterior mental block, and it happens all the time. I'm not concerned with these because they're temporary. What I'm concerned with are the internal mental blocks. Internal mental blocks are more permanent, and they are ingrained. They are based on a story, and these are the ones I'm concerned with. These are the ones that get in the way. This is the stuff that's in the 80% that gets in the way of your potential. An example of an internal mental block is in high school I played football, but although I was on a team, I never played. I was a bench warmer. I was the guy that had the cleanest uniform on the bench, and 10 seconds before the game is over, the coach would say, "Get John Kim in there," and I go running onto the field, and just as I hit the field, the buzzer rings and the game's over. So I was that guy, right? I was on special teams, and so my false belief is that I'm not an athlete, right? So if I bring that into the box and everything hangs on that belief, that is a mental block, because I'm around athletes, a lot of amazing athletes that have played sports their entire lives, and if I start comparing myself to them, which it's almost impossible to not do in CrossFit, because just the way it's set up, the names, the whiteboard, the times, all that stuff, then based on my belief that I'm not an athlete, I already stutter before the workout even happens. There's stuff happening, there's inner conflict happening, and that translates into what happens through behavior, right? Which is hesitation, stuttering, not giving it your all that stuff. So that is an internal mental block. So another example of internal mental block is, say you were once 100 pounds overweight and you lost all that weight. You lost a person, basically. And although you are physically capable and you are in shape now, you still believe that you are the quote-unquote the fat guy. And you carry that with you in the box, and that belief is what your workouts hang on, and that stumbles you. It gives you a stutter step. It's the reason why you're not hitting your potential, because of that inner conflict. So that's another example of a mental block. I believe everyone has mental blocks. I don't care who you are, how good you are, you have some form of mental blocks, because everyone has a story, right? And no one has a perfect story. Everyone has struggled in some way. Here's the flip side of this. Think of, what if you're an athlete your entire life, and you've always excelled and you've been praised because of your athletic ability. Then you find CrossFit, and you realize there's other athletes, there's other people with your ability. This could be a mental block in the sense that the pressure you put on yourself, and if your false belief is, if I'm not always number one, then I'm nothing, or if I don't get the top score all the time, then I am not an athlete, or I am less than. And that can stutter you, that could play with you, and that could be an inner conflict that in behavior takes away from your potential. So that's another example of an internal mental block. So internal mental blocks need to be processed, and we need to rewire dissolve our false beliefs and rewire how we think. So when we go into the box, these things don't stumble us. I'm jumping all over the place. When people ask me what I do for a living, I tell them I build safe containers. I think that what a therapist does is they build a safe container, and in that container, there's growth. So a relationship can be a safe container, and in that relationship, there's growth, right? Or if you are, say, in an abusive relationship, that's a cracked container. And because of that dysfunctional pattern, or because of the abuse, it stunts growth. So you can't grow. Take, for example, an addict and someone that enables, or domestic violence, if there's a pattern going on, or codependency. These are containers that are cracked, and because the container is cracked, it's almost impossible to grow, right? So the thing about CrossFit, I think the reason why it's so powerful and why there's so much growth in CrossFit and why people love it and why it's become so big is it's, as far as working out and fitness, it's a safe container. The global gym, not that those gyms aren't a safe container, but CrossFit is micro, and it's the power of community. And in that community, that human interaction, we produce glue, which is trust, right? And then support, and this happens. We start rebuilding ourselves through others, and there's tremendous power in that. And because of this, and because the container is safe, there's growth. A lot more growth in CrossFit than there would be, say, at a global gym. Okay, I talk a lot about giving and taking, and I think in order to get the most out of your box, you got to turn your dial to give. And I don't mean give like be generous and give money and what I mean is use the box, right, to exercise your state, the you being in your truest form. Because what happens in the box, I believe, is a direct reflection on what happens outside. So, for example, whatever things that you struggle with mentally, what happens in here in the box is the same process that happens when you're dealing with other things in the world outside of the box, your relationships, work, stress, anxiety, and all that stuff. So the box is a great measuring tool for the things that you deal with on the outside. So we can use the box to exercise being in our truest form. And that means, of course, that means support and getting into people's stories. It also means being transparent. It means exercising, not seeking validation and approval, how you feel about when you start comparing yourself to other people, all the stuff that happens in the box. We can use it as a tool to exercise other things than just fitness. That's how you get the most out of your box. And also, by doing this, by exercising your truest form, you're contributing a lot to the box, making that container more safe and making that soil richer for growth for everyone else. Okay, quickly, cognitive distortions. Everyone has cognitive distortions, or a form of it, okay? Here's a few that happen, I think, in the box. Okay, filtering. Magnifying the negative while filtering out all the positive, okay? So this is someone who I don't know, gets a 2-pound PR, and they are magnifying the fact that it's only 2 pounds and not a 10-pound PR, and filtering out all that is positive, which is that they got a PR. Okay? How many times have you filtered? These cognitive distortions can be speed bumps to potential. Okay, so they are in itself kind of an own version of contributing to a mental block. Black and white thinking. Okay, you're either perfect or you are a failure. Okay, this is, people that define you either are exit or there's nothing. Right? That's black and white thinking. You either do the workout as RX. Or if you don't, it doesn't count at all. Okay, so you're either quote unquote perfect or you're a failure. That's very extreme. You're either the top guy on the leaderboard or you're absolutely nothing. Black and white thinking. Overgeneralization. If something bad happens once, we expect that to happen over and over again. Okay, so you go in, you do a muscle up, maybe you hurt yourself, and maybe whatever, you can't get it, and you think, you know what, I can't do this. It's going to happen over and over again. And once you start thinking that, that's what happens in behavior. So, huge mental block when you overgeneralize, or you try to do, handstand push-up, and you can't get it to happen, and you think that's going to happen over and over again. Jumping to conclusions. Determining how people feel towards you with no evidence. And I picked this one because CrossFit has a huge social factor to it, right? And although it can be very powerful with support and all that, there can also be negative things like gossip and drama, and the CrossFit box can easily turn into high school. So, jumping to conclusions, determining how people feel towards you based on no evidence. And a quick example, if one of your favorite coaches, they're just busy and they don't give you the attention that they normally give you, then you jump to conclusions and you think that they don't like you or that they're disappointed in you without any evidence, okay? Or whether it's a coach or other members, having that. And that is negative. That's feeding into the negativity of the box. I'm not going to say this word because I can't pronounce this word, but catastrophic. Anyway, the inability to foresee anything other than the worst possible outcome. Okay, so you're already going in extremely negative. The inability to foresee anything other than the worst outcome. And if you do it a lot in the box, chances are you're doing a lot out of the box. So you challenge yourself to fight this in the box, mentally, emotionally, and use that as an exercise and let that ripple through all the other areas of your life outside the box. So that's a good example of using CrossFit to change your life, not only your body, your fitness, but also the way you think. And that's what I'm talking about. Getting the most out of your box. Holding on to other people's responsibility for our pain, I was going to say potential, or blaming ourselves for every problem. Okay, coaches. How many times have clients made you responsible because they can't do a kipping pull-up? Or, they blame you for something that they don't take the responsibility for. Or blaming ourselves. How many times, coaches, have you seen someone do, say, double unders, and they're frustrated, and you could literally see them beating themselves up and blaming themselves, right? Happens all the time, blaming. And that's putting pressure on ourselves. That can turn into a mental block, and suddenly you fear double unders, and you just never get them, okay? Shoulds. Lots of projection in the box, lots of control, lots of how we think that certain things should be done, right? So people being narrow. This happens a lot in the box. And also the shoulds that we place on ourselves. For an athlete, we should be hitting these numbers. We should be lifting this much, all that kind of stuff. That is pressure. It could be positive pressure, but it could also be negative if it's not presented in a healthy way. And these shoulds also can be mental blocks. Emotional reasoning. I feel it, therefore it must be true. One of the things that we feel in the box, everyone, is pain, right? One of the things that we feel in the box is being tired. And because we feel that if we believe that we are tired, we're going to stop. So emotional reasoning is behavior determined or based on your emotion. So if you're feeling a certain way and that is a negative emotion, then you stop your body, which is, again, a mental block pulling from feeling. Okay? So these cognitive distortions are all contributing to mental blocks that contribute to that hinder our performance, our / potential. Fallacy of change, expecting other people to change to suit us for our own happiness. This is a lot of things. This is what we do outside of the world, and it also happens inside the box. Expecting other people to change to suit. If you're a coach and you put the pressure on yourself that if I can't get this person to do something or lose a certain amount of weight or perform or hit their potential, then you are less happy. It affects your happiness. Maybe it makes you feel that you are less of a coach because of that. And that happens a lot in boxes. So, cognitive distortions, internal, external mental blocks, the way to get the most out of your box, all these things they're just things that we don't talk about. And I'm creating this video to encourage you guys to start a dialogue to process some of the stuff that I think is going to not only make us better athletes, but we'll get the most out of our box. It'll make our box and the community tighter as people, right? The experience of CrossFit is a human exchange, okay? And taking what we learned from the box and applying that to our lives, so we experience secondary change, not only inside but outside, hence becoming happier and hitting our potential in our lives, in our relationships, in our careers. So I think we could get more out of CrossFit if we start this kind of dialogue. Because CrossFit is already great soil. It's rich soil for growth, right? You guys are CrossFitting, you know that. Why not get more out of it? If you relate to anything I'm saying, share this with a friend, and let's start a dialogue.